Hello again, I'm Tripp Rogers, and this is Tripp's Take. Well, the Oscars, of course, Hollywood's biggest night. And I always love to watch the Oscars because, well, it's the only award show of the major award shows where you see every award given. Now, I don't necessarily care about the film editor, and I'll never see these guys again in my life, but it's nice to see them get the spotlight. But here's the problem I have with the Oscars. It's almost as if it's an exclusive club, and they're letting you see this. Because how many times has the movie that has swept the Oscars or won a lion's share of the Oscars has not been seen by a lot of folks? Do the Oscars reflect the movie-going public? No, not really. They don't. Only in a couple of times have they reflected popular, what were popular movies at the box office. And that's part of the nature of the beast, but it's almost just like Hollywood is saying, well, listen, you should go to see this movie because we think it's great. I thought the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown, was wonderful. I thought Timothée Chalamet was very good. I thought Monica Barbiero was very good too. Neither of them won. And, instead, we had a movie that I don't think anybody has seen. Now, the one thing I will say is a lot of these movies are available for streaming because now you have shortened windows of play in movies and you have quicker times on streaming, so you can see these movies. And I guess I'll have to check out Anori, but I had no idea what it was. And like I said, that's, I think, part of the problem with the Oscars. And that's why viewership is down, because people just don't get it. And the other part of it is that the host of the show kind of makes or breaks the show. And, Billy Crystal was very successful at it for a number of years. He was good at it too. And again, it is one of those no-win jobs. If you do well, maybe you get asked to come back. But if you don't do well, forget it. It lives in infamy. Conan O'Brien was okay. I mean, he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. So that was the Oscars. And of course, one of the things about the Oscars is you always get the annual panning over the in memoriam segment. Again, it's a length thing. But I thought it was very appropriate. Morgan Freeman talked about Gene Hackman, who passed away a couple days before. Whose body was discovered a couple days before. Let me straighten that out. And then Gene Hackman was the last person. He won a couple of Oscars. He was a great actor, and he deserved that notoriety. But again, everybody complains about the in memoriam segments. They always forget somebody. And again, part of it is it's tough to do an all-inclusive type of thing. My daughter made a great comment a few years ago. The only all-inclusive in memoriam for movie makers is the TCM salute at the end of the year, because they include everybody. But the Oscars, they don't do it. And again, part of it is a timing thing. And I will say one thing. I'm so glad those musical numbers were out the door. I'm serious. They dragged the show. I thought this year's show was a bit snappier. Like I said, I enjoyed it. And believe it or not, it was only 15 minutes over what they had allotted for the time. So I'll be very curious to see if they stick to this. Although I will say, starting at 7 o'clock in the East, 4 o'clock in the West, I think it's a little early. Maybe go for a 7:30 start, but ABC obviously wanted a half hour to promote American Idol, which is what they did, because the post-Oscar spot is kind of like being after the Super Bowl. You get that kind of a bump. All right. I mentioned it real quick. Gene Hackman's death certainly cast a little bit of cloud of sadness on the Oscars. Gene Hackman was such a great actor. I mean, he won an Oscar for French Connection. He won an Oscar for Unforgiven. But there were so many good roles. I mean, the quintessential basketball coach, Norman Gale, in Hoosiers. He was the naval commander of the submarine with Denzel Washington. And he was wonderful in that movie. And Gene Hackman was a great leading man, and he was also great as a supporting actor. He was so good. People seem to forget his first role that he really got notoriety for. He was in Bonnie and Clyde. I think he was their third guy in that group. It was Bonnie, Clyde, and it was him. I forget the name, but Gene Hackman, a fabulous actor. And this story itself is just very sad because you don't know what happened, and I don't think you will know what happened, at least not for a while. Just a very sad story to begin with. And again, with happening Oscar weekend was just very, very sad. Speaking of passings, I mean, it just seems as though we have had a run of musical folks who have passed away. And it's just unbelievable the number of people who have passed away. And I want to just mention real quick Roberta Flack. And it kind of ties into the movies because her career was made by Clint Eastwood when he included her song First Time Ever I Saw Your Face in the movie Play Misty for Me, in which he played a disc jockey. And that gave the song a new life. And Roberta Flack, first person to get back-to-back records of the year. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And that's fantastic. But there are other, it just seems like we've had a bunch of them back to back to back. I think the one that kind of hit me a little bit was Robert John. Now, Robert John did the song Sad Eyes, and that was a hit in 1979, but there's a backstory to this. He had been in the music business, and he'd been a songwriter for a long time. Finally got out of it because after he had the hit with The Lion Sleeps Tonight, he couldn't get a record company to support him recording an album. It was basically a single. There was no album. So he retired, and what he did, he went into the construction business at the Jersey Shore. He was working in Long Branch. In 1978, there was a song, My Angel Baby by Toby Bowe. And a record producer friend of his heard it and said, well, that's a song Robert John should be doing. So I called him up and said, come on out to the West Coast. And together, he wrote the song that became his only number one song, Sad Eyes, in 1979. Now, the reason why Robert John, his death hit me, I saw him in 1995. Radio station WPLJ in New York did a 70s reunion concert, had a bunch of stars there, and one of them was Robert John, and he sounded so good. Like I said, so his death is one to mark too. And again, it's just, we've had a run of a number of music people passing away. And that is Tripp's Take for March I got to think about my days. March the 6th, 2022. 25. Duh. Questions or comments, please feel free to email trippstake@gmail.com. If you like the music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we do play Robert John. You can go to WTRSradio.com. That's powered by Live365.com. Thank you for joining me. For now, I'm Tripp Rogers. Make it a great one.